Alicia with Vegan Tastes Good. Today we are going to make a quick, well, maybe not so quick, but we're gonna make an easy raw vegan cinnamon roll recipe with only 6 ingredients. And we're gonna have a special star of the show, which is Blueberries. So this is a part of the VTG 14-day cleanse, which is 7 days of juices followed by 7 days of raw plant-based meals. So the 6 ingredient recipe is special to me because I love cinnamon rolls, and when I'm craving something sweet, a lot of times I'm just tired of everything that has cashews in it because I do have a cashew allergy. So we're going to use 6 ingredients: Psyllium husk, we're going to use plantain, we're going to use a nut of our choice. I think I'm either going to do pecans or almonds, blueberries, blueberry syrup, and dates. You do need a food dehydrator, but if you don't have one, it is okay because you can put your oven on the lowest setting and just let it sit for a couple of hours, possibly more. Not really sure. We're going to kind of flow as we go. Let's get into it. So we have our 6 ingredients. We have our plantain. You know it's sweet when it starts to turn a little black on the outside. I have date syrup. You can make your own date syrup. You could use whole dates and crush them or blend them up, but I'm using date syrup because I'm just going for convenience today. I have some blueberries that I juiced. Half of this is left because I did make a delicious smoothie yesterday with it, and I used it for garnish. So this is blueberry juice, but as you can see, it's kind of thick and syrupy. We're gonna use this. I also have some cinnamon, some Ceylon cinnamon. Not all cinnamons are created equally. Remember that. Ceylon cinnamon, you're gonna get the most health benefits from this. And then I also have walnuts. So I chose walnuts. Here's some raw walnuts that I have. I have pecans, I have some almonds, I have sunflower seeds and Brazil nuts, but I went with these because these are cinnamon roll walnuts by Badass Nuts. Shout out to John, Badass Vegan. But these are raw. So it's just sprouted walnuts, dates, Ceylon cinnamon, and vanilla extract, all organic. So what I'm gonna do, these are candied. I'm gonna soak them in just a little bit of spring water to soften them up a little bit. And then I'm gonna add these into my cinnamon rolls. So since it already is candied, might as well go ahead and add it. And there's no sugar. And then the way that we're gonna bind all of this together is Psyllium husk. So let's go ahead and get started. This is quick and easy, pretty much throwing everything into the blender, blending it up, and then we're gonna mold our cinnamon rolls together, throw them in the food dehydrator, and then we'll see. We'll check on them throughout the day to see how long it takes. And then we're gonna top it with this blueberry juice that is kind of syrupy. I'm gonna find a way to thicken this up too, so I might mix it with the date syrup so that way we can drizzle it on top. So there's a couple of ways to get this done, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a food processor. You can use a blender if that's all that you have. That's perfectly fine. But for my sake and my sanity, I'm going to use the food processor to avoid having to continuously take the blender, shake it up, and push everything down because we want this as thick as possible. So I did decide that I'm going to add some of the walnuts into the actual cinnamon roll itself. So I'm gonna start off by just kind of crushing up our Badass nuts. All right. So let's go ahead and start this up. Make sure this is the consistency that I want. So there's still some hard pieces. Actually, let's go ahead and put the plantain in because we don't want to chop it up too finely. So this plantain is very ripe, as you can see. We actually might need to, whoops, get a knife. Kind of split that baby open a little bit. This plantain is very, very ready. And it smells so good. So I'm only gonna use one plantain since this is kind of an experiment for me. I'm not gonna make too much because I'm the only one in the house that would probably eat this. My youngest might try it. My oldest might also, but there's no telling. Let's go ahead and get this going. Okay, we're gonna we got a paper towel here. So there's one piece that's giving me a hard time. So let's open this up and we're just gonna cut this piece of the plantain, chop it up a little bit. So you wanna make sure you get all of the chunks out. So the reason why we are using plantain is because, as you know, plantain is a little bit starchy. It does bind well. And is very sweet if you let it do what it needs to do. All right, so I feel like this is the perfect consistency. Let me show you. And you can actually see some of the pieces of the walnuts, the candied walnuts, the badass nuts in there. So now the next step, we are going to, we're gonna add our psyllium husk. So we're going to do about, I guess maybe a tablespoon. I'm going to use a regular spoon. I know this isn't how you're supposed to properly measure, but I'm going to start off with just, actually, we're going to do 2 tablespoons. That's probably more or less, but this is the joys of cooking, you guys. You experiment. When you're actually baking, there's a whole science behind that, but we're not doing that now. I'm not a baker. I'm very much a taste as you go, see how it turns out. I've done this before. I just use more ingredients. So, you know, let's give this a stir. I guess we'll thicken it up. We'll see if we need more. There we go. Let's see. It's getting a doughy type of texture. So psyllium husk is a dietary fiber. So this can be used as a prebiotic. It's great for digestion. It's raw vegan. You can put this in anything, like if you're baking, you can put it in your smoothies. You can add it to juices. This stuff is gold, especially when you are making raw plant-based meals and you need something to help bind. This is one of my favorite options. So now what I'm gonna do is just add a little bit of cinnamon, and I'm also gonna check the consistency of this. So as you can see, it's doughy now, and this is perfect. So next, I'm gonna add a little bit of cinnamon, and I'm not gonna blend this up. I'm just gonna add a couple of sprinkles. Not too much because there's already cinnamon inside of the badass nuts. And we're just gonna mix this up here. This is probably gonna be enough for maybe one cinnamon roll, and that is okay. So I am gonna use my food dehydrator. I've had this dehydrator for years. I've had it since like 2012. It's still working, therefore I will not be getting a new one anytime soon. All right, so let's just go ahead and take this off. Move our base out of the way. And I'm going to get some parchment paper. Lay down and hopefully make life easier for me here. Parchment paper with no wax, please. All right. So we have our parchment paper here. We have our dough for our cinnamon rolls. And we're just gonna lay it down here. I'm gonna take this out. We want all of this goodness. So only thing about using bananas for this recipe, which you absolutely could, I've seen some cinnamon roll recipes using bananas. Bananas, whenever you put them in the dehydrator, they get very sticky, I guess you can say. So when I say sticky, I'm referencing like fruit leather. So if you've ever made fruit leather, you've made your own like fruit roll-ups from fresh fruit, that's what it's giving. We don't want it to give that. We want this to kind of have a texture or consistency of bread. And just to let you guys know the ingredients, because I am kind of measuring out loud as I go. We have used one very ripe plantain. We used maybe about a handful of badass nuts. If you have any regular nuts, that's fine. Also, just make sure you chop them. And then we use about 2 tablespoons of psyllium husk powder and maybe about a teaspoon or maybe half a teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon. So now what I'm going to do, and you can see it's not super sticky like you would think it would be. We're gonna form this into a ball. And ideally, I would like to have this rest for just a second. You don't have to, but I would like to personally have this rest for a second. I'm just gonna taste a piece. Delicious. You can definitely taste the plantain. The psyllium husk powder does not have any sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? It doesn't have any sort of taste to it. It doesn't have like a weird texture or any of that things that you might be used to, especially when it comes to gluten-free items. But what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna get my hands dirty. I was trying to avoid it, but hey, you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. We're gonna flatten this out. I'm actually gonna wet my hands a little bit so it doesn't stick too much. But we're gonna flatten this out. And I'm gonna put this in the refrigerator for just a little bit. Not too long. I just want it to rest. So maybe I'll just pop it in the freezer just for a second. And then we'll go ahead and we'll mold it into our cinnamon roll. So there's a chunk of plantain here. I'm just gonna throw that to the side because I want mine to be doughy. Just gonna flatten this out as much as I can. There you go. And then I'm gonna fold it over again. Then we're gonna flatten it out some more. So to make sure that this cooks through, or not cooks, but it goes in the food dehydrator and it can get done quicker, we're gonna try to make this as thin as possible. So all I'm doing now is I'm folding it over and I'm flattening it out. All right. Just to make sure that everything is well combined. And then now, folding it over once more. And then what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna flatten this out completely. We're gonna roll it, and I might actually just make small bites so that way this can cook through a lot faster. I know I said I was gonna do one big one, but as I'm going through it in my mind, it's gonna take like 2 days for this to get done. So we're gonna flatten this out, form it into a square. Let me wet my hands one more time. And then we're gonna make some cinnamon roll minis. And we're only gonna get a few of them. It's not gonna be a whole lot. So if you want more out of this recipe, it's simple. You just multiply the ingredients. So you can use a rolling pin like a normal person, but I just moved in my house not too long ago and I don't know where my rolling pin is. I have a bunch of stuff that just turned up missing whenever I moved, so who knows what happened to it. I certainly don't. All right. And it doesn't have to be perfect. We're gonna roll this up anyway. Okay, I'm gonna pop this in the freezer for just a little bit. And then we're gonna take it out and we're going to add 1 small layer of date syrup and cinnamon, as well as some of our soaked badass nuts. And then we're gonna cut it, we're gonna throw it in the food dehydrator, and then we will have some cinnamon roll minis later on, and we're gonna top it with a blueberry syrup. All right, so while our cinnamon roll is in the freezer, just resting for a moment, I am actually going to, we're just gonna crush it up. The rest of the nuts that are in here, as much as we can. Okay, let's see what we have. Perfection. With the exception of this hard piece of cinnamon, we're just gonna put that up. All right. All right, so we have our crushed badass nuts. And I'm going to soak these in just a little bit of water, just a little bit of spring water. And when I say a little bit, I literally meant just a little bit. So this is unsweetened. We're not losing any of the sweetness from it. You get my spoon. And it doesn't take much for this to soften at all. So I'm gonna pour the water out. Don't lose your nuts, you guys. And we're gonna squeeze the water out. So this will give you an idea. So this is gonna be what we are going to put inside of our cinnamon rolls. So we're gonna jazz it up a little bit. I'm gonna add some date syrup. That's roughly about 1.5 tablespoons, maybe. I'm gonna mix this up. I'm gonna add some cinnamon. It's roughly about 1 teaspoon. I want a very heavy cinnamony type of taste. And then I'm gonna mix it. And it smells divine. It smells so good. Let me give this a taste. Delicious. All right, and then one more thing I'm gonna do is get my blueberry juice. So this is juice blueberries that I made the other day with my Nama J2. I'm just gonna pour a little bit in here. And we're gonna mix this up. Give it another taste. Perfect. So the taste of this is very sweet, tart. I got the blueberries from Atlanta Harvest. Absolutely delicious. Just to thicken this up, I'm gonna add some more psyllium husk, just a little bit. I'm actually just gonna pour it in here. Maybe like 1/2 teaspoon, not too much. Maybe 1 teaspoon, that's what we'll say. Because we want this to be thick, we want it to be gooey, we want it to be delicious. Okay, so this is what we have. This is our blueberry walnut filling for our cinnamon rolls. And it keeps getting thicker and thicker. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get my cinnamon rolls out of the freezer. I'm gonna get my food dehydrator so that way we can get that turned on. Anything I'm not using, I'm gonna go ahead and put it up now. We are gonna sprinkle just a little bit of cinnamon on top. So I'm gonna keep this over here to the side. Let's go. So here's my throwback Presto food dehydrator. I have had this thing for over 5 years. How long have I had? I've had this since 2012. So it's been, or not 2012, I've had this since 2015. So about 9 years. This is 9 years old. And my baby still works great. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn this on so it can start heating up and getting ready. Move my other ingredients to the side, out of the way. And let's put this over here. All right, so now let's go ahead, check on our filling, looking good. And I'm gonna get our cinnamon rolls. All right. All right, so here we go. I think I'm gonna just flatten these a little bit more. All right, so first things first, we are going to just sprinkle a little bit of cinnamon directly on our dough. And then we have our mixture, our blueberry, walnut, date, cinnamon mixture. And I'm just gonna spread that on here. I'm just gonna dump it all out on here. We're using the whole thing. And if you wanna eat these raw, you wanna eat it just like this, after you assemble it, you can. But I want want mine to have a little bit of a texture, not a gooey texture. I want it to just, you know, I want it to resemble a type of bread. So that's what we're gonna do. If you want to put dried blueberries in here, go for it. I'm not doing that though. So let me show you what we have. All right, so now we're gonna roll it up and then we're going to cut it and put it in the dehydrator and then we can enjoy. So this is very similar to rolling sushi. If you have a sushi roller, you could absolutely use that, but we are not going to. I do have one actually that's not far away in the house, but okay. Okay, so I'm gonna get this roll that we have here. Just make sure that the ends are sealed. And then I'm gonna cut this up and slowly add a layer to my food dehydrator. There we go. We don't need these other racks because we're not using those. So let me get a knife. And we're gonna cut and then form these into the shape that we would like. So this is the end piece. Doesn't look that great. We actually might need to roll these a little tighter. We're still gonna eat the end pieces, you guys. So we're gonna, but I don't want all of my filling to come out. Our cinnamon rolls here, as you can see, they're ooey gooey right now. And I'm just gonna sit them all up and then we're gonna flatten them a little bit. Roll them up tighter. This one broke a little, but it's okay. Okay, and then our last two. All right, so I'm gonna smash these just a little bit with the knife. Oh, I smashed that one way too much, but it's okay. Okay, so now we are adding them directly on the rack. Turn this one this way. All right, so we're going to let these dehydrate. I'm assuming it might be around 4 to 6 hours, but we'll check back and we'll see. Our cinnamon rolls are done. It's been about 4.5, maybe 5 hours, and we have delicious mini raw vegan cinnamon rolls. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to plate these. I'm going to drizzle my blueberry syrup on top, and we're gonna give it a taste. And there we have it, delicious blueberry cinnamon rolls. Let's give them a taste while they're still warm. Let's see, I'll get this small one on the side. I did put coconut on it because why not? Wow. Nobody else is getting any of these because these are so good. The texture is very doughy. You can taste the walnuts, you can taste the blueberry, you can taste the cinnamon. You can't really taste the plantain that much, but it has a nice texture. It is raw vegan. It is gluten-free. But this with the blueberry sauce on top is completely unmatched. There's so many different textures and flavors all in this, and I will say that this is one of the best raw vegan, plant-based cinnamon rolls that I've had. A banana could never. Thank you so much for joining. I'm gonna finish this off. This is my treat. Thanks so much for joining. I'm gonna finish this off. This is my afternoon treat. I've earned it. Make this recipe. Let me know what you think. If you're looking to join the 14-day cleanse, it is not too late. Go to www.vegantastegood.com. You can join in. We have a support group, an exclusive membership portal with cooking classes, videos, virtual workshops, including herbal education and guided meditations. And of course, you will have one-on-one coaching. I will check in back with you guys soon. Stay tuned for more juice and raw plant-based and even some cooked recipes. I think next week after my 14-day cleanse is over, I might be in the mood for some stews.